Without a shadow of a doubt, this is definitely one of the most popular designer boozy fragrances that people tend to recommend for the colder weather, and for good reason. It's a damn good fragrance, and of course we're talking about from Mugler. It's Amen Pure Malt. Stay tuned. So please excuse everything behind me. Just unpacked everything a few hours ago. I mean, just unloaded the truck a few hours ago. Haven't got to completely unpacking. Started working on a few things, assembling the desk. Just wanted to point that out because I know it's a mess behind me. Let's get into the fragrance. So normally I would cover the box and go over presentation, but we're changing things up a little bit going forward. And unless the box is noteworthy, I'm not going to cover them anymore. Now, in regards to the bottle, this is an iconic Amen bottle. That rubberized texture, has the clear glass, that orange ambery type of color to it. Some fragrance information on the bottom. Let me get it to focus for you guys. Has that atomizer style, and these, they're tricky. There's a sweet spot to get it to spray well. Let's get into this scent. So it's classified as an Oriental Woody, and it was released in 2009. I'll actually put the notes right here for you guys. But when you spray this one in the opening, you get a dose of those fruity notes and the citruses, the orange, bergamot. You get everything. It's a very, very sweet, fruity citrus up top. And I get a lot of malt whiskey and a little touch of that coffee in the background. It hits me right up top. And then once it starts to transition and really settles down a little bit, the whiskey really shines through, and that Amen DNA really comes out. You get it a little bit in the opening, but after a few minutes when it starts to settle in, you can tell it's Amen for sure. If you've ever smelled the original Amen, which is a patchouli dominated fragrance. If you like patchouli, you most likely like the Amen line of fragrances. If you don't like patchouli, you probably can't stand the Amen fragrances, whether it be the original or the flankers, because most of the flankers end up resorting in the dry down to the original, to Amen. So if you like Amen, you're going to like most of the flankers, and that is definitely the case with this one. It's sweet and boozy in that heart. Once you start getting into that dry down, there is a little bit of muskiness to it. The patchouli is really shining in this dry down. I get a little bit of sweetness. It doesn't really come across as the vanilla that's in there. It just has a nice sweet undertone to it. And that's pretty much it throughout. It doesn't change drastically. It's not completely linear, but it's not heavily nuanced either. What you get in the opening does start to fade, but what you get in the heart stays just about the whole way through until the very, very deep dry down hours later. Beautiful scent. I mean, it's been around for 11 going on 12 years now. It's been reformulated. It's changed. It's not the beast that it used to be, but it's still a decent performer, and it smells fantastic in my opinion. Definitely one of those great fragrances to cut through the coldest of weather in the wintertime. Now, as far as longevity, it's definitely above average, giving 8+ hours. I get about 8 to 9 when I wear it. If it's a slightly warmer fall day and I happen to pull this out, which is a rare occasion, maybe 7 hours because it'll burn off a little bit easier. But even though the projection is not as heavy as it once was, even with newer bottles, which this is the Mugler formulas, this isn't the one that says Thierry Mugler on the box, which for those of you that don't know, see how it says just Mugler. The older style said Thierry Mugler before they got bought out. So they have been reformulated, but they're still fantastic fragrances to get, like I said, 8+ hours in longevity. Projection, relatively heavy in the opening for about an hour. Then it doesn't really sit closer to the skin an hour later, but it's not as loud as it was in that first hour. So for about up to the 3-hour mark on my skin, it's really easy to smell me. I definitely smell myself very easy as well. And after that 3-hour mark, it will start to sit pretty close to the skin where you just have a very, very mild scent trail. People get within a few feet of you, depending on where they're standing, the circulation of the air in the room, or if you're outside, depending on where they're standing, downwind or upwind, will factor into if they can smell you and how easily. It definitely has a strong complement factor. Sweet fragrances tend to do that, which this being a whiskey dominant boozy fragrance, it's a sweeter boozy fragrance. Beautiful scent. Love this stuff. It's definitely at the very least a must try. If you can find it in rack stores, which I did for around 30 or 40 bucks, I don't remember exactly what it was. It's absolutely worth having if you can find it in that $30 to $40 range. It's kind of a must buy if you like a boozy scent, a sweet scent, or the Amen DNA at all, patchouli fragrances, stuff like that. I feel like it's a must buy at that point. So as you can see, we're not doing the overall rating system anymore. I'm just going to give you thoughts moving forward on these reviews, and that's how I'm looking at this one. Is if you like sweet, boozy, or patchouli, Amen Pure Malt is definitely a must buy. Well guys, that was my thoughts on Mugler's Amen Pure Malt Flanker. And until next time, do me a real quick favor. Go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. Do appreciate all the feedback. I love hearing from you guys. How many of you have this fragrance? It's a wonderful, I mean, this is nothing new. It's a wonderful, wonderful wintertime scent. You'll see it in a lot of people's fall and winter lists because it's great for colder weather. Boozy sweet scents tend to be great for cutting through the cold and being relatively easy to smell. Definitely not really good for warmer weather because they can get really cloying and be a bit too much even for yourself smelling. It'll overpower you, if you will. This is definitely not one I would suggest in warmer weather, but a stud in the cold. And until next time, I will say, if you get Pure Malt and you give it a spray now, you might end up thanking me later. Have a good one, guys.